Hi, sixth graders. We're on lesson 4-9. Our learning target is comparing and ordering fractions, decimals, and percents. So make sure you're in your math notebook, and you want to be starting on the page right after your 4-8 classwork, so you can keep your notebook nice and organized, and write the learning target at the top of your page. An important vocab word that you want to remember is a rational number, which is any number that can be written as a fraction. So rational numbers, there are tons and tons and tons and tons of rational numbers. Rational numbers include whole numbers. Here's an example of a whole number. Integers, fractions, decimals. We have repeating decimals because 0.44 is the same as 0.4 repeating. Negative 0.456, 2.2 repeating. So when it says any number that can be written as a fraction, even though this is a whole number and it's not a fraction, we can turn any number into a fraction by writing it over 1. So 2 divided by 1, or 2 over 1, is the same as 2. Negative 4 over 1 is the same as negative 4. 0.8, or 8/10, can be written as a fraction. 8/10. 2.2 repeating can be written as a mixed number. And the rest of these decimals can be written as a fraction as well. So it doesn't matter if it's positive, negative, fraction, repeating decimal, mixed number, integer, whatever. Okay, as long as it can be written as a fraction, it is a rational number. We want to order the set of rational numbers from least to greatest. We have 48 hundredths, or 0.48, 9 twentieths, and 0.46, or 46 hundredths. So the first thing that we want to do is get them all into the same form, whether it's decimal, fraction, or percent. So I would write these numbers down and then the steps that I do to convert them. So because we have 2 already in decimal form, we're going to convert 9 twentieths to a decimal. So if we remember, the easiest way to convert a fraction into a decimal is if we can convert, or if we can find an equivalent fraction with a 10 or 100 or 1,000 in the denominator. We know that 10 goes into 100, and if we 20 goes into 100. So if we multiply 20 times 5, then we have to do the same to the top, because whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. So 20 times 5 equals 100. 9 times 5 equals 45. So 9 twentieths, we just found out, is equivalent to 45 hundredths. These are equivalent fractions because all we did was multiplied by the same number and we got a fraction that is the same. But now, because it has the 100 in the denominator, 45 hundredths, it's a lot easier for us to write it as a decimal. So I'm going to rewrite this over here, 45 hundredths, so now I can look and I can put them in order. So I can see that 45 hundredths would be my least, and then 46 hundredths, and then 48 hundredths. Now our last step is to put them in order in their original form. So 45 hundredths was given to us as 9 twentieths, so I'm going to rewrite it as 9 twentieths. And then the other two are exactly how we wrote them right up above. So 9 twentieths, 46 hundredths, and then 48 hundredths. So if we have 63%, 2/3, and 65 hundredths, or 0.65. So as you can see, we have one of each of the forms. So we are going to figure out which form would work best. And it doesn't really matter whichever way you convert it to, you'll still be able to figure out the least to greatest. Sometimes it's just easier to pick one over the other. So this time I'm going to convert them all to percent. So this one is already in a percent. 2/3 we know is 0.6666666 or 6 repeating. So if I write that again, 0.6666 and on and on and on. To change to a percent, remember, we move the decimal over 2. So then we can rewrite it as 66 point, and we could round this up to 7. It really wouldn't matter too much if we had 66.6% or 66.7%, but it is approximately 66.7%. And then for 0.65, we move the decimal place to the right, 2, and then we write that number and add the percent sign. So now we have 63%, 66.7%, and 65%. So now I'm going to rewrite them in order. So I know that 63% would come first, then 65%, which I'm going to rewrite in the form that I was given it to, so 0.65 or 65/100ths. And then 2/3, because then we have 66.7%, so 2/3. 65/100ths we also could write as 65/100, and then we also know that any number over 100, we just drop the 100, write the numerator, and add the percent. So you could have done that either way. And then we have 8/10, 81%, and 0.805. So we have, this time we're going to convert them all to fractions. We've done decimals, percents, now we're going to do fractions. So we have, we're going to leave 8/10. We know that 81% is the same as 81/100. And then we have 805 thousandths. So if we take, well, if we write it like this, 805 over 1,000. If we divide 805, if we divide them both by 10, we could leave it as thousands and then we could convert 100 to thousands. But if we divide both by 10, we would have 80.5. And even though we don't want decimals in our numerators or denominators for a fraction, but just for these purposes, we can use it because we can see then that it'd be 80.5 over 100 or 80.5 hundredths. And 8/10, we know that 10 times 10 is 100. So if we do 8 times 10, we can convert that then to 80 hundredths. And now our numbers are very close. We have 80 hundredths, 80.5 hundredths, and 81 hundredths. So we know that this is the smallest, then this, because 80.5 is right in between 80 and 81, and then that would be our third. So now I'm going to rewrite it. So actually each one we need to convert back. So we would have 8/10 and then 805 thousandths. And then 81%. Okay? If we have two fractions and we want to compare the fractions, The easiest way to do that, to determine if one is greater than, less than, or if they're equal to, is to find a common denominator. Finding a common denominator is basically finding a common multiple of the denominators of two or more fractions. So basically what we want to do is we want to find a number or a multiple that both of these denominators can go into. So we always can multiply our two denominators together because we know that whatever 12 times 18 is going to be 18 will go into it and 12 will go into it. But if I think about it, because that's kind of a big number to multiply, well, I know that they both can be converted to 36ths on the bottom. So I'm just going to rewrite it on the sides like this. So I know that 18 times 2 equals 36. So whatever I do to the bottom, remember I have to do to the top. So 8/18 would be the same as 16 36ths. 12 times 3 would equal 36. So that means 7 times 3 equals 21. So we have 21 36ths and 16 36ths. So I'm going to rewrite this. Just so it's nice and organized. And yes, you should be writing this in your notebook. So I know because our denominators are exactly the same, now we have the same amount of pieces. We have 21 and 16. So now we know that 21 36ths is greater than 16 36ths. Or we go back to our original form, and so we know then that 7/12 is greater than 8/18. For 5/6 and 7/9, I know in my head, and I don't think that there's a common multiple less than just if we multiplied them together. So I know, obviously 6 times 9 is 54, so that I know they will both go in to 54, nice and evenly. So 9 times 6 equals 54. And then I have to do the exact same thing to the top. So 7 times 6 is 42. And then 6 times 9, because I need to multiply times 9 to get 54. So then I have to do the same to the top. So notice I'm doing different multiplying to each of the fractions, but I'm getting the exact same denominator. So we're going to focus on one fraction at a time and figure out what do I have to do to get my denominator to be here, or 54, or wherever I'm trying to get to, and then you have to do the same thing to the top. So 9 times 5 is 45. We know that 45/54 would be greater than 42/54 because 45 and 42, or 45 is greater than 42. So then 5/6 is greater than 7/9. All right, and then the least common denominator would be just what we were trying to figure out. So we figured out that since 12 and 18 both go into 36, and that would have been our least common multiple for 12 and 18, then that is our least common denominator. Our least common denominator for 6 and 9 is 54. So basically it's finding a common multiple. The least common denominator goes along with the least common multiple. It's the lowest one. All right, that is all I have for you. So make sure you log into NICU and take your 4-9 NICU quiz. Have a nice evening.